Welcome back to the Face of America channel.
In today's America, debates rage over executive power, federal land control, and the sanctity of private property. But few realize that these issues were shaped not just by the Constitution, but by a quiet legal war fought in the shadows of Reconstruction. At the center of this forgotten battle stood William Henry Trescott, a Charleston lawyer, diplomat, and strategist who helped define the limits of federal authority and the enduring power of presidential pardons. This is the story of how Trescott, acting as South Carolina's executive agent, used legal maneuvering to protect property rights, restore constitutional balance, and resist federal overreach. It is a tale of law, loyalty, and legacy, and it speaks directly to the challenges we face today. After the Civil War, the federal government faced a legal and constitutional dilemma: what to do with the property of those who had supported the Confederacy. Much of this land had been seized under the Captured and Abandoned Property Act of 1863, which allowed the Treasury Department to confiscate property deemed abandoned or used to support rebellion. This act was part of a broader wartime legal framework that blurred the lines between military necessity and constitutional rights. As legal historian Cynthia Nicoletti explains, quote, "The federal government's seizure of Southern land was not just a wartime tactic. It was a test of how far executive power could reach in peacetime." End quote. The land in question was often held by prominent families with deep ties to American history, including the Cuthberts, whose land had originally been granted by King George II and was later inherited by Trescott's wife, Eliza Natalie Cuthbert. William Henry Trescott was no ordinary lawyer. A Harvard-trained legal mind and a former Assistant Secretary of State, he had served as a diplomat in London and negotiated treaties with Chile, Mexico, and China. But in 1865, he took a new role: executive agent for South Carolina. His mission? To secure presidential pardons for landowners whose property had been seized, and to prevent the federal government from permanently confiscating land under the guise of Reconstruction. Trescott spent months in Washington lobbying President Andrew Johnson and Freedmen's Bureau officials. As he wrote to his wife, the process involved, quote, "lots of walking up and down in an antechamber," end quote, and, quote, "hunting up members of Congress at the Capitol," end quote. But Trescott was more than a lobbyist. He was a legal strategist who understood the power of the presidential pardon, enshrined in Article II, Section 2 of the Constitution. This clause gives the presidential authority to, quote, "grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment," end quote. Trescott used this power to argue that once a landowner was pardoned, their property, even if seized, must be returned. It was a bold interpretation, but one that Johnson accepted. To understand Trescott's success, we must examine how pardon law worked in practice. Under Johnson's proclamation of amnesty and Reconstruction, May 29, 1865, former Confederates could apply for pardons, but only if they met certain conditions. Those who owned more than $20,000 in property had to apply directly to the president. Trescott became the go-between, collecting applications, drafting legal arguments, and presenting cases to Johnson. He argued that pardons should not just absolve individuals of rebellion, they should restore their legal rights, including property ownership. This interpretation was controversial. Radical Republicans in Congress wanted to use land distribution to punish the South and reshape society. But Johnson, a strict constitutionalist, sided with Trescott. As legal scholar Jonathan Doris noted in Pardon and Amnesty under Lincoln and Johnson, quote, The pardon process became a battlefield for competing visions of the Constitution, one favoring federal transformation, the other defending individual rights." End quote. Trescott's work had lasting consequences. By securing hundreds of pardons, he helped prevent the federal government from permanently confiscating land, and blocked efforts to expand federal control over private property. He also helped define the legal scope of presidential pardons. In later cases, such as United States v. Klein, 1871, the Supreme Court ruled that Congress could not limit the effect of presidential pardons, a direct echo of the legal battles Trescott had fought. Trescott's legacy is not just legal, it's ideological. He embodied a conservative vision of America, one that values limited government, constitutional restraint, and the protection of property rights. Today, Trescott's story resonates in debates over eminent domain. Can the government seize land for public use? Trescott's fight reminds us that property rights are not negotiable. Executive power. Can presidents override bureaucratic decisions? Trescott's use of pardons shows how executive authority can check federal overreach. Federal land control. From ranchers in the West to homeowners facing zoning battles, the tension between Washington and local property owners continues. As legal scholar Cynthia Nicoletti writes, quote, "Trescott's maneuvering was a quiet but a powerful assertion of constitutional limits, a reminder that even in times of crisis, the rule of law must prevail." End quote. Let's clarify a few key points that are often misunderstood. Trescott did not oppose Reconstruction per se. He opposed federal overreach and the confiscation of private property without due process. Presidential pardons do not erase history. They restore legal rights, not reputations. Captured and abandoned property laws were wartime measures. Their use in peacetime raised serious constitutional questions. Trescott's work was not about defending rebellion. It was about defending the Constitution. William Henry Trescott is rarely mentioned in textbooks, but his influence is profound. He helped shape the legal boundaries of executive power, defended property rights, and resisted federal overreach, all while navigating one of the most turbulent periods in American history. In an age where constitutional limits are tested daily, Trescott's story offers a powerful reminder. The law is not just a tool, it's a safeguard, and sometimes the quiet work of a single lawyer can preserve the freedoms we hold dear. Here are some sources for those who want to do further research. Cynthia Nicoletti, William Henry Trescott, Pardon Broker, Journal of the Civil War Era, 2021. Jonathan Doris, Pardon and Amnesty under Lincoln and Johnson, 1953. William Henry Trescott Biography, and University of Virginia School of Law, Scholarship on Trescott.
Face of America, hear our call. United we stand, together we'll rise tall. From the mountains to the shining sea, history's heartbeat, proud and free. Stories of courage, love and light. In our hearts we find the light. From the past we draw our strength. Face of America, we go the length. Together we share, together we shine. In every corner our spirits entwine, building a future hand in hand. Face of America, and I would be the stand. Together we shine, together we shine. In every quarter life, spirits entwined. Loving a future, hand in hand. Face of Uncle America, united we stand. Together we share, together we shine. In every cornerstone, hey, many land. Bring that and we stand. Ooh.